Well, after we introduce a conditional probability, we immediately have to talk about independent events. Why? Because independent events, they don't affect each other. So if you're given a condition and they're independent, the condition really has no effect whatsoever. Two events, A and B, are considered to be independent if knowing one occurs doesn't change the probability that the other will occur. That does not mean the same thing as mutually exclusive. That's a totally different thing. So if A and B are independent, these two things have to be true. Ready? I'm going to write the probability of B given A. Think about that. I know that A happened, and now I'm looking for the probability of B. Well, if that's equal to the probability of B just by itself, there's the probability of B and the probability of B given that A happened. If they're the same, that means A had no effect. That means they're independent. Goes same thing backwards. Probability of A given B would be the same as the probability of A. That would mean that B had no effect. Okay? So, what I'm going to ask here is, are some variables independent? So go back to the two-way table about gender and pierced ears and determine whether male as a gender and yes as an answer for whether you have your ears pierced or an ear pierced are independent. So here's how I check. I find the probability of male given that somebody says yes. I also find the probability of yes given that I found somebody who's a guy. And I want to see, is this equal to the probability of just finding somebody who's male? If so, saying yes had no effect. And then I'm going to find the probability of somebody saying yes to see if it's the same as this. If so, M had no effect. Okay, probability that I find a male given that they said yes. Out of the yeses, that's 103. A male is picked, that's 19. That is 0.184. Now the probability I get a yes given that I picked a male means out of 90, so my denominator is 90, and the probability they say yes is 19. That's 0.211. Now let me check. What's the probability of picking somebody who's male? 90 out of 178. What's that as a decimal? 0.506. These are not the same. So what does that mean? The given part that somebody said yes does actually have an effect on whether or not I pick somebody who's male. Same thing here. What's the probability somebody says yes? That's that's going to be 103 out of 178. That's 0.579. That's definitely not the same thing as here. So my answer is no. Male and yes are not independent. Knowing one definitely changes the probability of the other. Okay. Going back to page 291 here, here's the one that we were talking about a little bit ago. So I'm going to answer question 2, okay? And bring this back into the page. We had liberal arts. They didn't give us the totals. That was so mean. And then they ask, are L and E independent? So L, of course, the grade is lower than B. And E is engineering and physical sciences. So how do you check if events are independent? You go find the probability of L given E, and then you go find the probability of E given L. Well, we found this one earlier. This was 800 out of 1600 as a given probability, and that was 0.5. And E given L, that would be E given L. Let's see. I gotta go back here and look a little bit. Given L, given that the grade is lower than B, I need to add up some numbers here. So that's going to be 2268 plus 800 plus 588. That's 3,656. And given that they're in there, what's the probability that they're in engineering and physical sciences? So that's going to be 800 out of this 3656. And on my calculator, I'm going to go 800 divided by 3656, and I get 0.2188. Okay, now I'm going to check what's the probability that I just get somebody who is L, which means grade is lower than a B. That was the amount of people who are grade lower than a B was 3656, and apparently that's out of 10,000 students. And so if these aren't the same, my answer is no. So 36, I'm going to the calculator now. 3656 divided by 10,000 is 0.3656. These are not the same. What does that mean to us? That means that somebody belonging to this group of classes, the engineering and physical sciences, if you already know that it's them, that does have an effect on the probability of whether or not they got a grade lower than B. So they are not independent. Okay, went through that one kind of fast today, but I got a lot to do today. So you guys can, of course, pause and do whatever you got to do to listen to those. I am going to put this homework on my math lab, I think. I'll pick a couple of problems just to get you guys doing stuff on my math lab, okay? Have a good day, everybody.